Welcome to Rebel Watch, an all-Star Wars podcast.
Hey, what are you trying to push on us?
Perhaps you think you're being treated unfairly.
Yes.
I got a name. That we haven't talked about in a while, a long while.
It feels like we're going in a Lord of the Rings direction here.
No.
Okay.
I mean, I wouldn't take us there. No.
Okay.
We're going to a galaxy far, far away.
Thank God.
Yeah.
Thank God.
A long time ago, my friend.
It was a long time ago.
Yeah, it was. And the name I would like to bring forward is Qui-Gon Jinn.
Amen.
You know?
Most powerful Jedi of all time?
Or most powerful Jedi of all time.
I mean, yeah.
I don't know what else you can say.
Yeah.
I mean, Qui-Gon is... I think... Here's the thing, man. Think back to episode 1.
Thinking back.
Okay? Think of
Sorting
all
through.
of the... Think of what we had seen up to that point.
Yeah.
Of the Jedi we had seen, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, we had Obi-Wan, we had Luke, we had Yoda.
Yeah.
Okay?
Never seen one with a mop head before.
Never.
Never.
And then we have Qui-Gon Jinn just shows up. And did he not feel like a Jedi? Didn't he seem like... I mean, he really, you know...
And a lot of that's attributed to Liam Neeson, I think, too. And
Great choice, though.
Great choice. Just
Absolutely great choice.
wise, but conflicted. And you could really sense it through him.
Yeah, there was a lot there. I think he really pulled off like what a Jedi, like a true Jedi, a true master. I mean, he was you know, I don't know, man.
Yeah.
Big deal. So,
Big
anyways, the comic book series, right, my friend?
Yeah. Star Wars Age of Republic.
Yeah.
The first of many.
Right. Yeah, and I did not realize that they were going to kind of hone in on one character, you know, and really give us a couple. Is it a couple edition? You know, how long are they?
Each of the 6 characters or whatever in this time period, in the Republic time period, are getting their own issues. I don't know how many it's going to be, but they might just give each individual their first issue and then go back and do a couple more. I don't know, but.
Wait, here's the thing. On Rebel Watch, like this is how do I put this?
Yeah. No. Yep. Yep.
This episode, I wasn't going to read this, and
you're glad you did, though. Right?
You sat me down and said you need to read this.
Read it. Dang it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that we did because you know it brings us back to a conversation that often happens. Yeah. In Star Wars.
Greatest Jedi of all time.
Greatest Jedi of all time. That's actually our next episode, so stay tuned for that.
That'd be a good one. And then maybe we can redo the lightsaber battles one.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly.
Or just repost it.
Well, yeah. Could you imagine? People are like, what is this?
Man, that's when Tom was still with us.
Yeah, he's no longer with us.
We lost them both.
Yeah, they're gone. They're done one with the Force. What? Tom, Matt died?
Yeah,
they're gone, guys.
So to speak.
They are gone.
Yeah.
Oh, they are one with the Force. But no, my friend, the question is balance. What is balance? Mm-hmm. You know, and so I was reading this Qui-Gon Jinn, you know, Age of Republic comic book. Yeah. And I'm blown away. That's the whole thing, right? That's the whole idea here is what is balance and what does it mean? Mm-hmm. So I think we want to talk about that a little bit. We're going to jump into some news after that, and then we've got a nice, really cool interview we want to talk about here with Kevin Smith at the end. So stay tuned for that. But let's just dive into this. I mean, we want to set us up as to where we are with kind of a. I'm guessing this is obviously pre-episode 1.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You know, obviously. As
spoiler alert for anyone out there. I mean, it didn't look like a Qui-Gon Force ghost, but it could have been.
I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say this is before episode 1.
That's a bold. We're gonna see that on StarWarsNewsNet.org.com.
I'm gonna come right out and say it.
Rebel Watch
breaking news.
Ezra Kirk.
That's like the second jack up I've had in like 3.
No,
4.
I loved it. I mean,
it was intentional.
No,
folks. Want to see if you're
as that
paying
comment
attention.
was so out there, it took me a second to really conceptualize what you had said, and I was just like, "What's he talking
What am I
about?"
talking about? Yeah.
Before he was stabbed.
It would be it would have to be before he was literally impaled by you would assume, I mean, you know,
that was one of the
you're welcome.
my favorite highlights of this podcast.
You're all welcome.
I will cut that up, and it's gonna be a little teaser.
Okay, good. But yeah, so that's where we are.
Yeah.
And you know what I thought when I first started reading this, I thought we were going to get some of that Obi-Wan Qui-Gon meeting each other type of thing. But when you jump into this, Obi-Wan is his apprentice.
You really that took me a second. I needed to because you're right in the middle of this conflict, and I'm just like, okay, I had to set myself in the time period and what's going on and what I know.
Yeah.
And we don't get a whole lot out of it, but we're on this planet. I can't even remember what it was called, but
They didn't give us a name, did they?
I think they might have it here, but it was the next planet. I don't think we're aware of the name.
Yeah, okay.
We might need to look that up, but the species or whomever the beings
Mistress
on this planet,
is what she is called.
They call her the mistress. She's almost like the queen of these people or whatever. She
Mistress of the Wood, right?
The wood. Yeah, they're almost like a nature loving species.
Yeah,
and they spar with these. They call them the metal people or
right, Thanos.
Yeah, you were ahead of me when we were reading it, and you're like, is this that Marvel guy? And I was like, who are you talking about? Thanos. I was like, what are you? And then I saw it looks just like it.
It's Thanos.
It looks just like Thanos.
He's everywhere, man. I didn't realize he was around that
we
long
are
ago.
bending worlds here. I don't know. Maybe this is part of the Endgame.
Oh my Lord!
The next movie.
Please, let's not even talk
it's
about
a Marvel property. They've done it before, man. But
yeah.
So they're sparring here, and in the Jedi Knights, Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon are sent to try to bring a peaceful resolution to it, and it doesn't seem to go well for them. So they kind of skedaddle with the princess to save her life, and they bring her back to Coruscant. She's very hostile. And that's. Qui-Gon struggles with kind of trying to, preach this idea of balance that he has, and that there's probably a more peaceful resolution to these types of things. And
well, one of the things that she was talking about was that she wanted Qui-Gon to strike down her enemy. That there would be peace, essentially, almost like a balance in her mind once they were destroyed.
Well, and then because she's like, I know you as great warrior.
That was my next point.
Yeah, and I think this could be then the moment, because we later on he struggles with this, but is this the first time he's really struggled with the idea of the Jedi, and are we warriors, are we peacekeepers? Because I think that's why this comic is so great, is that it challenges our ideas of what these Jedi really are, because I just accepted they're leading these Republic forces, and of course they are. They're really they're powerful, this and that, but this really challenges that notion even more. And obviously in new canon, Luke Skywalker raises the same issue, really, that maybe the Sith or the Jedi didn't really know what exactly they were doing at the time, and they maybe became what they were actually fighting.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that we go back and we revisit that idea now in a time where we just really accepted that they were these warriors.
Well, but I think you're right. You're coming off of and I was just pulling up the Jedi Apprentice books back in the day that I read faithfully.
Yeah.
After Episode 1 came out, they went back and they explained how Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan came to be.
Yeah.
No one picked Obi-Wan. I thought that's what we were going to see. I thought they were going to go back and start to kind of show some of that the beginnings, and I actually kind of like that they didn't, because if you want that Legends material,
it's still canon.
It's still there.
Yeah.
It's almost like they're dancing around some of that stuff just to say, you know what, that's pretty good storytelling right there.
Well, and it would be a long run too, probably, with this.
Yeah, exactly. And so there's a lot more, that they can do here with this Qui-Gon, and just all of this Age of the Republic series. But anyways, my point is you're talking about the idea that he's a great warrior. That didn't sit well with Qui-Gon. No. That he was called this great warrior, that he's super renowned and known for that, because think of it, if you're a warrior, you are you're someone who engages in war, And the reason I bring up the Jedi Apprentice books is because I was so mesmerized by their what their missions were. You know, they were sent at one point. Obi-Wan leaves Qui-Gon to join some of this. I forget the name, and someone out there, you know, let us know who this faction was. He kind of like falls in love and almost like really picks a side, leaves Qui-Gon, and helps this resistance of some kind or you know, rebellion. And he engages in this conflict where Qui-Gon's sort of like, that's not our place.
Yeah.
And a lot of times he's sent to negotiate, or there's an assassination. They're sent to be, you know, sort of like this justice unit that they do an investigation. They see, you know, who possibly assassinated so-and-so. And it was more of that that was their role, you know.
And that's what they were doing at the beginning of episode 1.
Yeah, negotiating. Exactly.
Which is interesting that they would choose, maybe because, I mean, Obi-Wan he says he's ready to face the trials. Maybe he brings a nice, like they balance each other out so well that they feel like putting them in a situation, they would be able to bounce off of each other, you know, what is the right direction, what's the wrong direction. But with how kind of open-minded Qui-Gon feels, it's interesting that they would send him out to do something so important like that. You know, it feels like with the council being so rigid in their ways, why would they send, you know, not a loose gunslinger, but like a little more open-minded, you know, Jedi to do their business?
Well, you know, one could counter too that like maybe the original intent here was to negotiate peacefully, and maybe he's been known to do that very well. And when it turns to conflict, you know, he even says, "I, you know, ignited my lightsaber in defense of myself and you.
Yeah,
you know, I'm not here to strike down your enemies, and that is not always the best, you know, course."
Yeah.
So, and that's the thing he tells Master Yoda. I mean, she at one point, because he will not go back and strike down her enemies, he's kind of saying, she calls him what?
A coward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Yoda thinks that's what is not setting well with Qui-Gon. And he's like, no, it's the fact that I was called a great warrior.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And how that he starts to kind of talk to Master Yoda about the Jedi being viewed that way. He said, you know, do you think that it's our proximity? He was almost talking about moving, this is fantastic, moving the Jedi Order off Coruscant. You know, if you look back in Legends, there were times where they had to do that. They sought out sanctuary, you know, both in the Old Republic and in the New and Galactic Alliance, the GA. Like they did all that happened.
And
you know,
that's interesting that they didn't, because in the entire prequel era, they're so distrusting of politicians, and they make jokes about it. Why not remove if you're not there to fight their war or just be political protectors? Like, why not remove yourself from it? They were well aware of how they felt about the politicians. Like, what's their obligation? And that's in the fate of the Jedi. You see that difference you see a wide gap between.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Right, the government and the Jedi, and that they really aren't. They keep themselves out of politics.
I've often thought in Legends, you know, one of the things that, you know, so Qui-Gon again is talking to Yoda about moving the Order, moving the Jedi Temple, or just moving them out, you know, to maybe a more remote world, somewhere where more in tune with the Force, perhaps a nexus of some kind.
Yeah.
Keep talking about the nexuses, man. I've been learning so much more about where they are in the galaxy, and it's just sort of like, what is their role, you know, and who polices? So the issue with the fate of the Jedi is who is overseeing, you know, that order. Yeah. And what's interesting is there are multiple orders around the galaxy, but the other orders, the Ang-Ti and the Baron Do and other, you know, orders that are out there, they're not governed by. They're not, you know, they don't have that alliance, you know, with the GA like the Jedi Order does. Yeah. And so it does seem like that is sort of part of the issue that Qui-Gon's seeing, is that, like, if you want to be contracted, if the Senate wants to contract, if they want to send a Jedi ambassador, they want to reach out and say, we have this issue, could you go to this planet? But right now it seems like and again, the Jedi should have the option to either refuse or, and maybe they do to some degree, but it seems like they're at their beck and
taking
call.
orders from the Chancellor. I mean, I don't think they can, and that's. I get that the Purge and all of that, like, led, you know, in the fate of the Jedi for them to separate themselves from the government, but I don't know. I felt like the council, especially the high ups, were so aware, even, with Valorum in there, they just distrusted politicians and they didn't want to really, I don't know, involve themselves in it, but they gladly take orders from them, and they, when the time came, they jumped into their war.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, and another thing that you're right about that. One of the other things that Qui-Gon brings up is the proximity to the Republic, their weapons of war, their machinery being that closely related. Whatever they do, when you are allied and you have this allegiance, if the Republic makes a mistake, and they attack or do something in the wrong, the Jedi are also there too, and so it's like you're kind of it's sort of like you have your own order and you are kind of governing yourself, but at the same time, that proximity to the Republic causes the galaxy to kind of say, well, they're just like a special forces unit of the Republic.
And that's I'm thinking of Attack of the Clones when they're in the arena and the troops show up with the Jedi.
Sure.
You would think, they'll get their people in, get them out.
Right.
They're done. But, I mean, I guess there is this war there, and they're just kind of thrown into it, but they so easily become the leaders of these divisions of troops, and it's just like it was planned that way. So it feels like it's all... They didn't just come up with this and all of a sudden they're in command. Like there was a structure there to it, and it's just... I don't know. It's strange. I wish we would have gotten more of Obi-Wan's perspective on film, because we didn't really get to dig into it too much. And I'm just thinking about Mace Windu too. He just says, we're not soldiers. But then I picture him out on the front lines running with this purple lightsaber. I'm just like, what? Yeah. Was it just the need to defeat this enemy in the moment? I guess. Keepers of the peace.
What's neat about this comic is that it makes you, like, it's causing us to, what Qui-Gon is discussing with Yoda is foreshadowing all these events to come. Because so what happens, to kind of continue with the comic a bit, he decides to seek answers in the Force, and he allows the Force to literally guide him to a planet.
Crazy. Never seen that. Like, get in his starship and
just meditate
take
and
his
just
hands off the wheel.
Yeah, let the Force
That's crazy.
Put in the coordinates, and away we go.
He's very trusting.
Yeah, the living Force, And so, he gets to this planet, which I think that's the one that's unnamed.
Yeah,
correct?
we don't know what it is,
Okay. And it's full of life. It's a place that seems kind of like a light side planet, full of the light side energy.
It reminded me a little bit of the planet from Battlefront 2, where Luke is collecting artifacts. And Kylo Ren seeks him out there. It reminded me of that place. It might not have been, but it also reminded me of Dagobah a little bit, and that there are no real like life forms, but it was very strong with the Force, and he could sense that immediately before he even landed. So he shows up to do some meditation, right? He finds this temple, very ominous. It seems to be strong with the dark side, and he starts to realize, like, oh, okay, there's light and dark. And this is where you really start to see, because what they're trying to do with these comics is really tie all these eras together, and you see him tying in The Last Jedi here.
They are.
Take it from the end to right to the beginning. It's crazy. Talking about the balance in the dark and the light, and he has visions, similar visions of him becoming something bad, like Anakin did in Clone Wars with the ones.
Sure.
Becoming this evil thing, and he thinks he's defending himself, and he strikes down all these demons around him, or whatever you want to call them, dark side entities, and it ends up proving to be his comrades, his fellow Jedi, and that ties in Luke Skywalker's experience, and when he went into that cave with his fear and his action of violence, he cut down himself. There's so much connection there with going into a cave and seeing yourself honestly, and he saw the Jedi.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that was an intense moment too. He's cutting down what looks like dark side, beings, and it turns out that they are Jedi,
the Council,
as you said. Which
Council
is nuts.
members.
So what he learns there is that once he comes back and he kind of steps out of that cave, so to speak, looks around and sort of sees light side and dark side.
in not symbionts,
not in
but
not in conflict.
not in conflict.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Both are present, and they're not in conflict.
Yeah.
You know, and it's almost like what Luke said in The Last Jedi, or when Rey is feeling things and she sees life and death, you know, and, you know, sort of, you know what I'm saying?
Oh, absolutely.
And she sees sort of like things being created. She sees the destruction of the, you know, the ocean coming in and washing away, you know, I don't know, creatures, whatever. Just, I don't know, like that violent mother, you know, the nature thing that's happening. I don't know. And then, like, you need it, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. Like, you have both.
It's a circle of life almost.
Yeah, I don't know. So that's sort of what Qui-Gon saw here as well, is that, like, they almost, when you first saw the dark side, it was like this red spreading.
Yeah, like
I don't know what it was, like a moss of some kind.
Yeah.
And then later, when he comes back out, he sees that red flower, you know, and almost seeing that, like, you know.
Yeah, there could be beauty in.
Yeah, and all of that. And it's what made this whole world, you know, that this world is what it is because it has light and dark in it.
Yeah.
But they weren't in conflict.
They weren't in conflict.
Yeah.
And he tries to explain that to Yoda when he returns from his meditation, and Yoda asks him kind of what he learned.
Right.
And he talks to him about, you know, understanding that you can't be so rigid in the light. And Yoda kind of calls him out. He's like, no, but, you know, you can't
bend to the dark.
Yeah, you can't bend to the dark. And he's like, oh, no, I totally agree. But the best line of all this, and I think it ties in so well to The Last Jedi, when they're talking, then they're looking up at the stars. It's great. Qui-Gon says, and yet becoming too rigid is also a risk. The tree that won't bend will snap with the wind.
Yes.
Who writes this stuff?
That's great.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And Yoda doesn't really agree with him there. But it's so cool that I don't know.
Yeah, he says, bend to it we must not. The dark side is ever present.
Yeah.
It's always a threat. And he says, of course not, Master Yoda. The dark side consumes, and there is no balance to be found in such a path. Then he says, and what is our purpose if not balance? So, yeah.
But how
it's still, I know.
How does the dark side find balance then? I mean, they don't. So I get Yoda's point in that if you don't counter that, then how is there balance? If through inaction, there wouldn't be balance. So I get what Qui-Gon's saying,
why it's
but
it's the never-ending, debate. You know, one of the things that I thought they were getting to this in Legends, and when you get towards the end of the timeline, one of the reasons Jason goes to the dark side is because he's seduced by the idea that a Sith, by this legend of a Sith who didn't really, I don't know, how do they put that? Like that wasn't evil. A Sith that wasn't evil.
That's weird.
That's weird, right?
That's really weird.
Yeah, and so that this person would be able to use the dark side power, but that they used it for good. Okay.
Yeah.
So he was he's drawn in to the dark side because he believes you can do that. Oh, there's a way, and if there's someone strong enough, kind of like an Anakin thing as well, you know. So there's more to his seduction than that. But there's I'm blanking on her name right now. But he has on the asteroid there. He ends up kind of learning more about the dark side and its ways and what he can do with it, and bringing order to chaos is a big thing, which again sounds a lot like something the Jedi might say, wanting to bring order and balance and stability, and it's what he was working for as well.
Well, so ultimately, Jason didn't succeed, and the dark side overwhelmed him.
Yes.
And where I am in the fate of the Jedi, Luke is trying to retrace those footsteps because Luke feels that he could, if he learns those things, maybe he could find that balance. It's kind of the vibe I'm getting, but that's also like a very new canon idea.
Yeah.
So my question then is, is it possible in new canon in episode 9 or whatever is to come that they're preparing us once again
come on
for acceptance of a balance, and and then it would be possible for someone like Kylo Ren to find a balance, or Rey, or maybe it just takes two that are willing to meet in the middle, and there's. But I don't know but that's the thing. If we're disregarding the Sith and saying they're too extreme and the Jedi were too extreme, then if you just disregard those extremes, there could be balance, and that's almost the whole point. But it's like, is Kylo going to lose it and go full Sith? I mean,
like the other thing that you have here is the idea that you have the Sith and the Jedi, which are orders in and of themselves.
Yeah.
The Force extends beyond them, and
That's right.
that was Luke's big lesson too. Is that like, the Jedi don't control the Force. They're not the only ones who get to use it and wield it, and it's in and out around everyone. So, and what I love too is like later, in that we keep talking about the fate of the Jedi, but whatever. It's the Yang Ti are this this order that see the Force in many colors. They see it in a rainbow, with many facets.
Amen.
And so it was like, what? And that's totally just bothers Ben and Luke. And it's hard for them to kind of understand. They have a great conversation about it.
Yeah.
And Mike and I plan on kind of going through and covering each of those, stories. But it's like, there's just a lot. There's a lot there, and this conversation of what is balance, and I think it goes back to just who we are, right?
Yeah.
Trying to find. We each have dark and light in us.
Yeah.
Isn't that the point, right? That's kind of what. It's sort of like when those things are. Which one are you going to act on? It's. They both can be present, and that makes us who we are, right? And it's okay to be angry at some things, and but to not let that anger control you.
Exactly.
I don't know, man.
Yeah.
Qui-Gon was on to, something here. He was really trying to get to the core of what balance is.
And wouldn't it be wicked then if he just shows up at episode 9 and he's like, guys, I tried to tell you.
I tried.
I mean, but it really is. It's just like, just abandoning those two orders. And that maybe is the reason you can never have balance, because you have these two extremes, and it just takes letting the past die. Maybe Kylo's been right all along.
Yeah, he's onto something. Yeah, I don't know.
Rey doesn't seem too quick to.
But it's also, Mike. Here's a question: do we need balance? Do we need it? What story would we have?
If it makes more Star Wars movies, I'd say no.
Well, if it makes more Star Wars movies.
If this lack of imbalance continues to generate Star Wars movies, I never want it to balance.
Oh, there you go. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what that's what I'm saying, is that the idea is that there's this ebb and flow. It's back and forth, and it's maybe there are moments and times where things are pretty balanced here, and then one side starts to push a little too far, and then we get this back and forth movement.
Yeah.
You get the purge, you get all these different things. So that's what makes a story conflict, you know? And so that's sort of like, and also in each of us, you have a conflict that you have to kind of, all sorts of internal, conflicts and external conflicts that we have to face in our lives. So there's something there. But
when you talk about the purge, Palpatine purged the Jedi. The Jedi also purged the Sith. So, I mean, they eradicated them for 1,000 years. So obviously it's going to balance itself out. But not in the sense of prolonged balance. Yeah.
If their job is to just be peacekeepers,
they're not doing their job.
Well, if they're keeping the peace and they're just doing, that's sort of their role, is to find and sustain balance, right? Then eradicating another order wouldn't really necessarily seem like it's, balance. And so that's where I think some of that misguidedness, and the Jedi themselves talk about it. They talk about how things have evolved and changed.
Well,
I think,
and so
Luke says it in The Last Jedi, the arrogance.
He does. Well, and that's, So, I mean, what started the Sith and, the Jedi sparring to begin with? I mean, aren't Sith just fallen Jedi? Did it just take one? Did it? I mean, I can't even remember the Old Republic books we read, but they had their own empire.
Yeah, they did.
And they sparred for, it was the Emperor who really wanted to.
Yeah, and if you go back to that Dawn of the Jedi book that you were reading, I mean, there's really some, stuff there about the very sort of beginning, the first Force users, and so I don't know, man. It's and then so you have your Force users and Force sensitives, and then you have again orders who establish in and around that, and you have many more than we think about. So it's something that they might broaden it, I think, to kind of include more, but you couldn't get away from destroying a Jedi Order.
Yeah.
You had to continue with a Jedi. You need that for the new generation. You need them to have Jedi, and we need Sith.
Yeah.
We do, but we also, I'm okay. That's why they brought in the Church of the Force.
Yeah.
You know, they brought in the acolytes.
But we haven't really
No, and they
dug into that. You know, we're talking about abandoning these two sides, and that there are other factions, and there's people that are sensitive to the Force, not just, you know, pulling a broom or a lightsaber, but like, they're more. There's the Vader comic I'm reading right now, which I'm only halfway through it, which is crazy. It's only taken a year, but one of the Inquisitors is talking to Vader, and he's like, "Yeah, you know, some of us are a little, you know, stronger with lightsaber skills, and I'm more of a sensitive guy. I can tell what people through their emotions, like what they're thinking and stuff like that, more so than I am skilled with a lightsaber." So it's like, okay, well, let's if this is what we're gonna do on the big screen, let's see other factions, let's see other planets, and let's go to the Chiss Ascendancy and see how they use the Force, because they have Force sensitive kids, and they use them for navigating, you know, space routes. But it's not something that isn't gonna sell, you know, movies.
Well, and that's what I was gonna. My point was going to be that, like, where they did this in Legends was books.
Exactly.
You know, they did that in literature, and they expanded. You know, the EU, that expanded universe happens in games. It happens in books. That's where you fall in love with something, and you go die hard, and you dive into it, and that's where you go. So I get with the main films, just kind of sticking with, you know, keeping it simple, keeping it sort of, you know, maybe a line or two saying that there are other beings, factions, things out there, but you can't, you know, it's you can't cram everything in the EU into 3 movies.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Well, what's cool about this comic is props to them for taking us to a couple new planets and seeing, you know, that there's galactic issues, and it wasn't just the Trade Federation and the Republic. There were other things going on that the Jedi have to intervene into. So props to them for not just taking this one issue and throwing it, you know, somewhere in between episode 1 on a cutscene or something, and showing him and Obi-Wan doing something crazy. This was a really deep comic for less than 20 pages.
Yes. Yeah.
Hardly anything happened.
Yes.
But
it
digs deep.
Deep. It does.
Into new canon ideas of what the Force is, and
it brings us back to that question of balance. What is it?
Yeah.
And, you know, I think it's amazing.
I didn't think these would be so effective, especially if someone like Qui-Gon, but now I'm just like, man, we're going to dig deep into Maul.
Well,
I mean, Obi-Wan, Jango Fett. Like,
yeah. I think, you know, as you say, it's sort of, they've gone back and tried to methodically, like, tie this all together and to bring in different, add these layers. Yeah. You know, so when we look at those films again, and they can't change anything that's been done there, but you can, you know, add in comic, and you can kind of layer some of this other stuff in there to kind of explain it. You know, we've all been talking about it for years on, you know, their YouTube podcast or blogs or wherever else. And honestly, so have the people at Lucasfilm. You know, they've been talking about some of the issues. They hear feedback from the consumer. And I think some of this, you know, is sort of like over the years, even as you watch it yourself, once you step back and you create something like, oh, that's cool. So many times I've heard David Filoni talk about how much more he wishes he could have done, and things that he wishes they could have accomplished. And then also, you know, they had this mindset, you know, in the Clone Wars that they didn't, you know, they never got to finish that. They never got to really tell their whole story in full. And so there were things that they were leaving unanswered and vague because they were going to tell that story later. And there's more to be told. Yeah. So I don't know. It's great to see that them kind of really taking this comic book and using it in a good way. I mean, really trying to tie everything together.
Well, and think about, like, this is just the prequels. This is just the prequel area. We still have, you know, the original trilogy era, and then we have the new trilogy era, which will just
so we'll have time. We'll have plenty of time for them to kind of really hit hard here with the prequels, you know, and then go to that Galactic Civil War, and then go, you know, beyond this to the sequels. So we'll see.
It's crazy,
where we get there.
Props to them for doing something different, because if we're just gonna sit here and rehash, you know, as much as I love the EU and the expanded universe, I love that it's different. I love that there's different concepts of the Jedi now, and that you know, there's failure. because there's not enough failure in the expanded universe.
Yeah.
And you want to talk about, everyone wants to talk about where's Rey's failure. It's just like, how much was Luke Skywalker failing in the expanded universe? How much were these heroes failing?
Yeah.
You know, Luke failed. So, yeah, and I'm sure Rey will have a failure. That could be how we get into another trilogy or wait 10 years or get another movie. There could be some failure there, but I don't know.
Interesting, my friend.
It's a whole nother conversation.
You literally just reminded me of about 15 other
pondering.
things I wanted to talk about with Rey's failure. That's hilarious. Okay. All right, my friend. So, yeah, I think we've talked about that. Do you want to do some just fun little tidbits here of other little Star Wars news, things that have come up?
Please.
And then we'll get into another big topic, I think.
Please. I mean, yeah. Maybe we can talk about, you thinking Kevin Smith? That kind of fun news?
Yeah. I was thinking about, that. I was thinking about holding off on that till the end.
We can hold off until the end. I am blanking on what the second topic is.
So, no, there's not, it's many topics. So,
well, hit me.
So, real quickly, by the way, just a quick plug for our Discord here. We do have
Yes.
a listener there, our good friend David Fogel, tuning in tonight. So we are glad that he's here. So you guys, we've been when we sit down and record together, we have Discord live, so you can check that out. We also are wondering who is going to give us $500 each to get the rare Empire Strikes Back crew gear inspired Columbia parka.
How good does Mark Hamill look in that old jacket?
Dude, it is so sick. If you haven't checked out these jackets, you need to. Only if you're going to also purchase one for Mike and I.
Yeah.
And just hit us up and we'll give you the address to send that to us.
Supposedly they were going for $500 for a limited time, but I mean I'm seeing prices of $1,200, which it better be the best parka ever. But I mean, look at
some of them are signed. The $1,200 ones are
that's what they
$2,000
are.
are signed.
I mean, there's so
Mark
much
Hamill.
detail in here. As we have the Empire Strikes Back logo, the old one with Vader's helmet and flames, which is sick.
Yeah,
they have the little crew decals, and it also says Norwegian unit.
Yeah, it's got the region. It has on the inside. It's got the it's got your coordinates.
Oh, that's so sick.
Right, so which is pretty cool.
That's so sick. It comes in a box. That's sick. I mean,
yeah,
I would wear that in the summer.
I would too. I absolutely would.
So good.
100% I would. So that's a quick little tidbit there. So feel free. We're getting close to Christmas here.
Yeah.
If that ends up under our tree, we will not be, disappointed about it.
I conveniently don't have a winter jacket.
Yeah.
So I think I'm probably a large.
Yeah. Okay. So. Good. Yeah. All right. So now we also have the Galaxy of Adventures. Some just little miniature. What do you even call these, man? This is for kids. It's Star Wars kids.
60-second clips. Yeah, it's their YouTube kids channel.
Yeah, it's YouTube's kid channel. It's the actual YouTube channel itself is Star Wars Kids.
Star Wars Kids, yeah.
Yeah, and you've got just little kind of like retellings, I guess, of Luke. They use the original audio though.
They did.
Yeah, so they use the audio from the originals.
It's kind of jarring at first.
Yeah, but it's kind of cool too at the same time.
Great.
My favorite so far is just we've only watched the first 4 or 5. Is Luke? When he gets his lightsaber and just that blowing. I kind of wish that would have happened that way. Like this wind is blowing all this energy, this force energy is like pulsating through him, and it's just like
wasn't in the budget.
I mean, I was waiting for him to pull like a He-Man, like I have the power.
He kind of did.
He kind of
went straight up. Yeah, that was great.
But I don't know. Really kind of some cool stuff there. So if you have a chance to let your young one watch that would be.
But that's a short attention span. That's like
yeah.
I mean, your kids are watching 30 to 60 seconds of that, and I don't know how they make sense of what's happening. He's just a great hero. I guess that's all they need to get. But I'm like, even for a kid, I think you can give him a little more.
Yeah.
Who's this weird hermit guy? Giving this guy a weapon. Go into just a little.
You gotta watch them in order too. So you gotta watch how it kind of leads you through them, which is interesting.
And also the Vader murder Rogue One scene.
I know.
That was pretty intense for little children that have a 60-second attention span. I guess that's one way of drawing them in and be like, that guy's cool and powerful.
And he's also
murdered 7 of
pretty
them.
bad guy. you know,
It was scary.
Better watch out for him in the future.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah. Anyways, it was kind of neat. So the animation is really cool, actually, and it was neat to hear some of the original the original audio. So
Amen.
that was cool stuff. All right, my friend. Any other just rumors? Kind of coming up here. I think this is going to lead us into the Kevin Smith interview we wanted to kind of talk about a couple days ago.
Yeah, he was on Good Morning America, promoting some of his upcoming material, and he mentioned that he got to go on the set of Episode 9 for a couple weeks. JJ had him out. They must be close buddies. He's a huge Star Wars fan.
Yeah,
he's a really funny guy too. But he got to go there for a couple weeks, and I'm super jealous. He
Same.
actually witnessed scenes.
Yeah.
And was told by JJ plot details, and he had to sign a non-disclosure form.
Sure.
Which, you know what, I kind of thought, if I was a big enough deal,
Yeah.
and JJ was like, hey, you want to come out, see the set,
Yeah.
and spoil the film,
Yeah.
I would say absolutely.
Me too.
I would.
There's no way you could turn that down. Go look at the set.
I'm still gonna love the movie,
You're still
even
gonna
if
love
I
it, yeah.
know what happens. But he went and
He only knows a couple plot details.
yeah, he's only seen a few scenes, but took a week to film these. So he said they're massive scenes, like these sets that he's using are massive. He's got this huge budget, but he said JJ's doing the Lord's work.
Yes, he did.
And he said it's going to be an amazing movie. And I mean, Kevin Smith knows Star Wars, but he's no BSer either. Like he'll tell it to you straight. And I'm sure he wants to stay in JJ's good graces.
Absolutely.
But like I trust what he's saying.
Well, but I mean, he didn't just go as far as like it's gonna be great, it's gonna be awesome. He went as far as to say that like he was watching a scene, and it brought tears to his eyes.
He just wept
Because of he said it was one of the best bits of acting he's ever seen
from a particular character.
Who we've seen before.
Yeah,
is what he said.
yeah.
And you're sort of, I'm like, Rose?
Hope not. I love her.
I'm just kidding. No.
But
I
hope
mean,
not.
no, but I honestly though think about it. Like,
Yeah.
could you imagine if the most surprising thing was, Rose coming out having some sort of emotional performance that you're sort of like, wait, what?
Yeah, I don't know. Who are you thinking? Immediately I thought Rey, but I was like, Rey had some pretty emotional scenes in my eyes, to where I was like, wow, she's killing it right now.
Yeah.
And maybe she just even topped that. But I was kind of thinking Finn.
Absolutely, that's exactly who I was going to
He
say.
needs that moment. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't know, man. It just.
Because here's my thing. So you remember how Rian Johnson talked about how he wanted to challenge all those characters and put them in these situations that were really, really challenging. I feel like he did that. Okay.
Yeah.
But if you had to pick one character where he didn't do it as much as he did with other characters, Finn.
Yeah.
And people will argue with me on that, which is fine. They'll talk about.
But when the moment where he's putting the speeder into the Death Star gun.
Yeah. I mean, and by people I mean no one arguing with me on that one. No, I'm just kidding.
No. Yeah. Exactly.
But yeah. So I don't know. So I felt like when I heard that interview, I was sort of like, that could definitely be Finn really pulling at our heartstrings.
I think he is.
Maybe seeing Rey turn to the dark side. I don't know what it could be.
Could you imagine?
I don't know.
If she does turn, the only person
That could bring her back.
that could bring her back would be Finn.
Yeah, I know.
And I'll tell you,
It's too
John
much to do in
Boyega
one
is a
film,
great.
but
John Boyega is a great actor too.
Yeah,
and I mean, he was fantastic in The Force Awakens.
yeah,
And he was just underutilized in The Last Jedi. And I think he's coming back with a vengeance.
I think so, too.
I think it's that conversation that him and Daisy Ridley had that said we're back together. He's pumped. He's like, I'm taking this trilogy back
to the next level.
He was a huge part of the beginning.
Yeah, well, and I honestly think I don't know, man. Like I love watching the behind the scenes stuff and seeing how intense some of the acting was.
Yeah,
because I think the one of the reasons I like The Last Jedi is because Mark Hamill put everything I felt like. Even JJ said it, wasn't he? Didn't he say he's like he deserves an Oscar for that? Like he deserves, he just really went for it, and so did Adam Driver. I felt like he really poured everything into his performance. Rey felt like Rey.
Yeah.
I don't know that it was. I don't know how difficult some of those scenes. I mean, they were. It's again.
Yeah.
I'm talking over here, and I'm not an actor of any. Well, I'm a scoundrel.
I think you'd be a great actor.
Got a shot. You're right.
I think you do. You got that Russell Crowe profile.
I turned down the role of Poe Dameron.
I would have murdered you.
I would. Yeah, no, never. But no, you know what I'm saying? Like I feel like you sometimes see these really powerful performances. You're like, whoa, that really just like that struck me. You know what I mean? And you see it over the course of a whole film. And so, you know, where you're going to see that is your protagonist, your antagonist. Those are the characters who are dynamic and who are changing and sort of have a lot going on. And but we didn't see that with Finn, and I feel like he's the part of that main trio. Yeah, you know. So,
but you know, I was thinking now though, like when you mentioned Kylo has epic moments in both films. I mean, the forest, you know, fighting. Yeah, I mean, he's turned on. Yes, the moments with Rey.
I was turned on as well.
Amen.
Come on.
With Snoke, when he calls him, you know, child in a mask.
Oh,
like, I mean, the look on his face, it was fantastic.
I got goosebumps.
But what we had, I mean, I'm thinking, you know, also the furnace just kicked off. Can't believe I didn't turn the furnace off. Anyway.
Feels great.
Feels nice and toasty. Maybe he has a moment. I've been talking about a Carrie Fisher hologram.
Yeah.
Maybe he breaks down. If he's going to be redeemed.
Sure. Okay. I see what you're saying.
There's going to be a moment.
I see what you're saying.
Of, you know, acceptance of that light, remorse for his father. Yeah. The death of his mother. Right. You know, the fact that there was these things that they wanted to tell him and he was being manipulated and it's all just coming on him at once. I think it could be Adam Driver.
Sure.
That mega moment.
Yeah.
This is his Skywalker trilogy now. So why not?
You're right. Why not? It has to be. Yeah. Well, and we were looking at this is how ridiculous Mike and I are. Come on. We were looking up the Force Awakens trailers.
So good. We need one soon.
We're waiting for one to drop soon for episode 9. And so one of my favorites is when Luke, you know, the quote comes in, "The Force is strong in my family." You know.
So good.
It's just so good. My father has it. Yep. You know, I have it. You know, my father. Yeah. So on.
You have that power.
My next door neighbor's dog has it. You know, like the janitor at your school has it. Yeah. You know, it's like, so I don't know, but I love that trailer. And we were looking, and I think it is that one where Maz is handing the lightsaber to Leia. Yeah.
So there's a very scene, clearly her, and it's confirmed. I'm pretty sure
it's not a deleted scene. We don't know what was said. We don't know. So they obviously shot something.
They shot something
significant there. And I just thought about it. I'm like, Maz is handing her a lightsaber. What does she say? You know, and could it be something? You know, is there a way to alter that it would be whatever word she spoke to Maz? Yeah, I don't really need to know necessarily, but I'm just thinking like. She could be reflecting on Luke, her father, you know, who she doesn't talk about. That's his lightsaber. You know what I mean? That was given to Luke. Yeah. You know, I don't know. There's a lot of things that she could be saying there. Maybe she makes mention of Ben, and it's somehow they put him, you know, kind of communicating through the Force in some way with her. I don't know, but I just thought, man. Wow, they definitely did film some significant stuff that we didn't see in the deleted, and we just saw glimpses of it in those trailers. And so,
be sick, really man. Cool stuff. It'd be sick. Yeah. I know. More episode 9 speculation. It just finds its way.
Oh, it always does.
Conversations
here on Rebel Watch, friends. It always will. We never stop speculating. We never stop, you know, thinking about. What is to come. You know, what's funny is I wanted to do eventually once we finish the Fate of the Jedi series. Come on. I want to speculate what happens at the end of that Legends timeline. Yeah. You know?
Yeah, why not?
Let's do it.
Why not? So. Well, you mentioned as, you know, looking at those teasers and trailers, we stumbled across
oh my Lord.
A legend.
This is the funniest thing I've ever seen. Let me pull this up here.
As I don't know if you and I have ever laughed so hard. I felt my heart stop. I didn't hear you breathe for, I mean, a full minute. Yeah. Nothing. Just, we could not stop laughing. Right. It's The Force Awakens.
So The Force Awakens, if you type this into YouTube, The Force Awakens trailer, Luke, you will see something as a little clip art. It says Luke spotted. And it's from, is it Gritty Reboots? Yeah. And it has over 1 million views 3 years ago. How we missed it, I have no idea. We are so behind the times here on Rebel Watch, but that's part of the theme of the channel in case you didn't figure that out yet. Yeah. One of the funniest things I've ever seen.
Ever.
And you need to go watch it. And anyone who can duplicate this in other fashions for the Last Jedi trailer or just anything. Well, what's funny is it's like they're spotting Luke in The Force Awakens.
Everywhere.
And
And it's very subtle at first. And
So
then
subtle.
He's just in every scene multiple times.
you're like, huh. Like you almost just
So
don't
good.
catch it. And then you're like, that's growing. His presence is getting stronger. And it's just never. It's
How
so cool.
we might have to take a deep dive into YouTube to find
Yeah.
more because
I'm
that
sure there
was
is.
so priceless. I don't know. We looked on their page. They haven't done any more of these for Star Wars. So
Yeah.
someone please we need to find these because
Yeah.
they're just so good.
Please send us more of this awesome YouTube stuff here. So anyways, yeah, go check that out. So
Yep.
have some fun with it.
Absolutely.
Oh boy, my friend. All right. Well, covered a lot there. Covered a couple different things. I think, and again, that was just our initial. Based on reading that comic, we got into the balance of the Force.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite things to talk about is the Force.
Yeah.
So I love any time that we can talk about that. We'll kind of continue. I think Mike and I want to talk more about the prophecy, the one, future
Yes.
prophecies. Try to do some tie-ins with more of the Legends books that we are reading currently. So we'll get back to all of those. And then again, we have a pretty big topic coming up here next week for you guys. So stay tuned for that. But anything else, my friend?
No, go. I don't know if many people were really anticipating these comics, but go read them.
Yeah.
I'm so sold now. I can't imagine just the story about Qui-Gon is the best. I'm sure there's even better stories, but
To come, yeah.
the summary of this issue is Jedi Order or Chaos ?
Wow.
It's just I don't
That's
know.
great.
It blew my mind. Wasn't what I was expecting. So get out there, Star Wars: Age of Republic, Qui-Gon Jinn, read it.
That's awesome. That's great. All right. Well, hey, friends, remember, hit us up on Facebook at Rebel Watch Podcasting there on Facebook and on Twitter at RW2187. You can also follow me. I kind of post some questions from time to time on my personal Twitter there at Womprat_2M. You can also follow Mike on Instagram at Red5 Son of Sith. You'll find him there. And hit us up. We could use a few more voicemails, my friends.
That's right.
I
miss those.
I miss those as well. We do have those collaborations that we're working on. I think I've got a break coming up here soon where Mike and I we've got 4 solid collaborations scheduled. So pumped for that. Cannot wait. So anyone else who is interested in a collaboration, hit us up. We love talking Star Wars with anyone and everyone. So, all right, friends, thanks again for listening. And as always, may the Force be with you.